Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a one-off video where I try to explore some of the thinking that you might want to go through when you're choosing which Galactic Legend to go for. And this is mainly meant for players that don't have any Galactic Legend yet, but I'll try to touch on what steps to take that can help if you already have some Galactic Legends or you're a little bit more established. But after you finished kind of like the end of my free-to-play farming guide and you have your Galactic Legend, that's also questions I'm going to try to be answering as well. So in order to demonstrate the thought process, I'm looking at my fossilized free-to-play account that I abandoned in May of 2020. It has not been logged on to since then, so it's been over 3 years, or almost might just be exactly 3 years since I logged onto this account. Gonna look at what we have and show you tools on swigga.gg that I consider heavily when deciding which Galactic Legend to go for. Before I start looking at that order count, I want to talk about the order I actually farm my Galactic Legends in on the account I currently use, and it's completely different from the order that I'd actually recommend you farming on. But the first one I got was Rey. That's because when I took over the account, she was Supreme Lord Kylo Ren had not been buffed yet. He had his rework, which let him avoid critical hits. So it was just two, and I targeted Rey because she seemed to be the clear choice. And she's honestly one of the last ones I recommend going for because it was super slow to get her and kind of painful. But after her, everyone else was much easier. But I kind of got her out of the way first. However, I would recommend normally her being last, all other things considered. A second Galactic Legend I locked was JML, and they got announced a month or two after I had unlocked Rey's, and there are some requirements that line up between Rey and JML. And Sith Eternal Emperor seemed further off, so I got JML second, but also not someone I'd recommend early for a new account just starting to work towards Galactic Legends. My third Galactic Legend was Supreme Leader Kylo. I had initially planned to get Sith Eternal Emperor after JML because he was easier to get, and I didn't have any Restorer characters, but I was just so sick of not being able to solo the Sith raid that I changed that up and went for Supreme Leader Kylo, but now that's not as important anymore. You don't need to be able to solo the Sith raid yourself. And then I got Sith Eternal Emperor fourth, and I finished him off basically just before they announced JMK. So at that point, I had all Galactic Legends. I was just walking on air, all free to play as far as like what I actually put into it to get these Galactic Legends. So at that point, I was 4 for 4, and then my next choice was clear, and it was obviously going to be JMK. I was super happy about JMK because, in my opinion, he was the first Galactic Legend. Well, kind of worthy of the name. Luke and Sith Eternal Emperor, because they were from the sequels, I didn't like the form they were in as much, but I was super pumped to get JMK. And at that point, the account I had, it was pretty easy to get him, so it wasn't much of a sacrifice at all. I think the rest of this is pretty obvious. After JMK, I got Lord Vader. I started working on him basically as soon as they announced him, and it took a few months, and he was very difficult, but he was my 6th Galactic Legend. And that leaves Old Fatty as my 7th and last Galactic Legend so far because I had all 6, and of course when he came around he was the only option left, so I got him last, but that might not necessarily be when you want to get him. So on my main account, I had a little bit of an easier time deciding which Galactic Legend to go for just because there were so many limitations. However, now with 7 Galactic Legends available, it's very hard to decide which one to go for. You got to take inventory of what you have, what you might be close to getting, and you can kind of just eye up your roster a little bit and see, okay, who am I close to? Like on this account, I got some Galactic Republic. Old Republic don't really play into any Galactic Legends right now. I got a lot of characters on this account that don't play into Galactic Legends at all. That's kind of how Galactic Legend requirements are built up. They're just cherry-picked characters that people don't have geared up super high or relicked, and so it's not surprising why they pick those characters to be required. But I'm going to show you a tool on swigga.gg that you can use pretty soon. But you also want to consider which Galactic Legend you want based on what your goals are. If your goal is excelling in PvP, either Grand Arena or Territory War, you might have a similar calculation to make. What are you seeing more often in Grand Arena? What are you facing? What would help you get over that hurdle? If you're facing a lot of people with just JMK, Sith Eternal might be a good option because you can beat JMK with Sith Eternal. If it's a bunch of Lord Vaders, which is not likely if you're newer, Sith Eternal is not a great idea. You might want to go for Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. However, different sets of requirements have different strengths. Some have characters with Grand Arena Omicrons, some with Territory War Omicrons, and so forth. Or you might want to consider PvE. Of course, as an endgame player, there's only a couple PvE areas I'm super focused on. The Crate Raid's one, but if you're trying to decide which Galactic Legends to go for early, this might not be as much on the front of your list, because there's only one to consider for this, and it's Jabba. All other Galactic Legends don't even qualify for it. If you're looking at Territory Battle, Jabba is probably the most valuable too, at least for Rise of the Empire. But if you're looking at Geonosis, JML might be nice, or Rey, or JMK, or someone else. But Jabba is also pretty difficult to go to. And then also there is Conquest. The most valuable Galactic Legends for Conquest are JML and Rey. So it just depends what your priorities are. I'm using JML to get these kills with Cal Kestis, but Rey also is great for keeping characters alive, as long as they're light side. So those two are the strongest in Conquest. So you definitely want to take inventory of what game mode you want to do the best in and choose accordingly. PvP, you can really kind of make anything work. What's best or not. If you're guild PvE, Java is a huge focus. If it's individual PvE, Rey or JML are a good idea. However, when you really get down to brass tacks, it's all about what you can get efficiently. And as far as efficiency, Sith Eternal Emperor has some of the easiest requirements in the game. So what I'm on right now is swigga.gg. Most people are very familiar with it, but you can go to your profile even if you haven't signed up. You just put in your ally code. This is the ally code of my old account that doesn't have any Galactic Legends and retired before even starting any progress on any Galactic Legends. So it's kind of like a blank slate for that, and it was just what was good before that era. So looking at Sith Eternal Emperor, we can see how many relic materials are needed, how many gear pieces. And as you can see, I have a little bit of progress on the bar, even from that account, because I geared up some characters that fit into these requirements without even thinking about it. And not quite 2,000 CCBs and Bronzium wirings, and a total of close to 2,000 signal data. So it's a lot. There's a lot required for Sith Eternal. When you compare it to other characters, it does not seem that bad. So like looking at Jabba, it's over 2,000 star on all those. 545 of the hardest signal data, but a little bit lower amounts on these other two. Like it's probably a similar amount for fragmented and incomplete, but it's got more high relic items. Also, the gear is just so much more. Let me put the stem next to Sith Eternal. So still looking at Jabba here, 3,100 stun cuffs, or stun gun, no, Carbantes, 2,100 stun cuffs, 1,750 stun guns, 1,715 Kairos, 1,150 here, so that's total 2,900 Kairos. I have 0 applied from this account. So even if you say, okay, yeah, Jabba is the best Galactic Legend for all game modes, it's so expensive to get him. Just look at this. Look at the Cairo text needed for Sith Eternal Emperor, 850 to 650. Another point of comparison, let's look at Supreme Leader Kylo, another decent option. He doesn't require nearly as much signal data or relic materials as, honestly, either of them. So Sith Eternal Emperor requires more relic stuff. As far as the gear, he requires a little bit more gear. So this is Sith Eternal Emperor I'm looking at right now. And then Supreme Leader Kylo, he requires some more gear. But you want to look at the actual requirements, what are useful for it, and how far is it to get there? Because this, for Supreme Leader Kylo, and this, for Sith Eternal Emperor, are way more achievable than all this for Jabba. And also, if you get either Jabba or JML, you have to consider Jedi Knight Luke as well. So this tool doesn't only show Galactic Legends clearly. Pretty much every heavy gear relic investment character after Rey and Kylo came out, they've put on this page to help you track your own personal progress. So it's very useful. And whatever you have to farm for Jabba or JML, you can just tack on any Jedi Knight Luke requirements onto it. Plus, there's the hidden costs of like Wampa, Rolo, Hermit Yoda that you need to unlock Jedi Knight Luke, and those cost a ton of guild event currency. So they are harder to go for earlier. Even if you do want JML or Jabba, it's just very tough to get to that point, and you're tacking on lots of relic materials. They don't have like late relics. Like there's nothing over relic 3 required for him, but it's still a lot of Carbantes as well. So that puts like the total for Jabba to like over 5,000 Carbantes. He is great. He's a priority, but it would be hard for me to say get him first because it is just so steep. So the gear requirements and relic requirements are a big reason that I recommend Executor before Galactic Legends, because it has a disproportionate impact on your crystal income. Fleet Arena, this will help you, at least as of now, until Leviathan comes out when it's unsure. This will help you get number 1 in Fleet Arena and get 400 crystals that way, and also help you in Grand Arena get more wins, get more crystals on a net basis. And it requires some heavy relics. It's not close. It's way less than even like Sith Eternal Emperor. So comparing Sith Eternal Emperor here to Executor here, it is just way easier in that regard. And also the gear. You need way less gear. This is an account that didn't even know of Executor and Sith Eternal Emperor's existence. It's still way closer on the gear front with Carbantes, because Executor requires a lot of useful stuff you already had, like some bounty hunters and Empire characters that are good, especially for new players. So that's why Executor is great. If we take a change and look at Profundity, I had no progress at all towards this back then. And that's because the characters needed for Profundity are not useful. And it requires more Chirotech. So we got 1,050 Chirotechs plus 750, 1,800 total Chirotechs. And we compare it to Executor, the Chirotech total is 350 plus probably either 600 or 650. So about or under 1,000. So Executor is way easier to get in terms of total gear. I think signal data too. Yeah, signal data definitely easier to get for Executor, and you don't need any R9. So Executor wins in almost every situation. He's not classified as a Galactic Legend, but the requirements are Galactic Legend-like, and the impact is Galactic Legend-like as well. So, at the end of the day, it's not an easy decision for anyone. It's hard for me to say just flat out overall what everyone should go for. But in terms of usefulness, I'd say Jabba is most valuable, then JMK, then probably Rey or Supreme Leader Kylo, and then Sith Eternal, Lord Vader, and JML are kind of the last priority. But Sith Eternal is so easy, I might go for him, and JML, then Lord Vader. But realistically, in terms of ease of acquisition, I still think either Supreme Leader Kylo or Sith Eternal Emperor are probably the best bet for a brand new player to get first. Even if you're under the realization, you come to the realization, okay, Jabba is uber useful. He's in Rise of the Empire TV. Your guild might not even run that. He's also used in the Crate Raid. You might not be in a guild that runs the Crate Raid. So you probably don't want to get Jabba first Galactic Legend, even though he is the most valuable right now. Also, the raid could change. They've said they want to develop other raids. So I go with Sith Eternal is way closer to the Supreme Leader Kylo now, since you don't need to solo the raid. The Sith raid, whatever raid you're in, you're going to just be kind of freeloading before a Crate Raid. So either one of these. And then JMK if you can get him with Watt. And then you might want to go for Jabba. It just depends how your Jedi Knight Luke farm is going. But Jabba is probably a good third or fourth Galactic Legend. If you're really bold and you really want to be focused, maybe you go for him second. But it's going to be a longer delayed payoff. And also, you definitely want Executor before going for any of these guys. And of course, we got to talk about just the quality of the characters you're using. This is something I'm not going to look through every Galactic Legend. I'm probably just going to look at Sith Eternal Emperor and Supreme Leader Kylo. Just go through and see, okay, do I like the character or not? Okay, Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, great. Royal Guard. He's actually better now. This used to be a crap character they had to get for him, but now he is much better after his rework. Piet, fantastic. Already have him for Executor, so you don't have to worry about that there. Krennic, terrible. Sidious, terrible. Maul, Darth Maul, pretty terrible actually. Count Dooku, you might get some use out of him, but not great. Sith Marauder, it's good for Darth Revan team. Imperial TIE Bomber, I think you'll have that already for Executor. China Anakin, great. Grand Admiral Thrawn, pretty good. Tarkin, got a ship. And Beers and Stark fits into our Imperial Trooper team. So he's actually looking like a great option now. Some of these characters have really, I don't know, they've aged like fine wine and not like sour milk. So he's got a pretty good cast, and I've actually kind of slighted him in my Galactic Legend rankings before. Next time I do them, I'm going to rate his requirements much better. And Supreme Leader Kylo, he requires less characters overall than others. Kind of this first wave wasn't as bad, but he also requires Finalizer, which requires a lot of ship farms. So Kylo Ren unmasked, decent tank, but whatever. Stormtrooper really only works once you have Supreme Leader Kylo. Same with First Order Officer. Original Kylo Ren, not that useful. I mean, you can have Phasma in Territory War if you give Omicron is good. But this is basically just the whole First Order faction. It's the entire First Order faction plus veteran smuggler Han Solo. And Emperor Palpatine. So you just look at that faction and you're going to get a team that runs with Supreme Leader Kylo. And then until that, you're going to have like a Hux team. So these requirements, they're not very broad and not super useful. They don't really overlap with Executor. So I think Sith Eternal Emperor might take the cake for first Galactic Legend if you already got Executor first. So that's just my kind of broad advice on it for now of how to evaluate what you should go for. But you definitely want to go to this page early and often to figure out what you're close to and what you're not. Like, it's you might think you're closer to something, but you don't know because one Relic 3 character is equal to another Relic 3 character in terms of like Relic materials, but not gear. So the newer Galactic Legends have more newer characters that require Chirotechs, which are harder to get because they're not double dropped. So I think Executor, probably Sith Eternal, are probably easiest to go for because Executor also feeds in the Sith Eternal Emperor. That's all I have for today. Let me know what questions you have down below and give me your thoughts. I'm sure plenty of people agree or disagree. Love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you later.